He was 10 years old, barefoot, holding a cardboard sign that said, "I'm just hungry." People walked past him like he didn't exist, a shadow on the sidewalk, a problem someone else would solve. But then a man in a black hoodie knelt down in front of him and asked a question no one else had ever asked. "What's your name?" That man was Keanu Reeves, and what happened next would change both of their lives forever. Before we begin, let us know where you're watching from. If you believe that kindness can change the world, and that the quietest moments sometimes speak the loudest, subscribe now, because tomorrow's story will touch you even deeper than today's. Downtown Los Angeles, Tuesday, 5:42 p.m. The sun was starting to set behind the buildings, casting long shadows down the sidewalks and across rows of storefronts. People rushed by with their phones in hand, earbuds in, coffee cups half full. At the corner of 6th and Main, between a closed laundromat and a liquor store, sat a boy. His name was Eli. He was small for his age, skinny, quiet. His hoodie was 2 sizes too big. His jeans were frayed at the cuffs. His backpack was nearly empty, except for a half-used pencil, a tattered book, and a photo of his mother. He hadn't eaten all day, and the sign in his hands, bent, written in black marker, simply said, "I'm just hungry." People passed without slowing. Some glanced and looked away quickly. Others stared with that distant look people get when they see something that makes them uncomfortable. One woman dropped a granola bar near him and kept walking without a word. Eli didn't move. He just stared at the street, waiting for the next wave of disappointment. Then, someone stopped. He saw a pair of scuffed black boots first, then jeans, then a figure crouching down slowly at his eye level. The man had kind eyes, tired eyes, eyes that had seen a lot and still looked gentle. "Hey," the man said, "I'm Keanu. What's your name?" Eli blinked. No one had asked his name in weeks. "Eli," he whispered. "Nice to meet you, Eli," Keanu said with a small smile. "How long you been out here?" Eli shrugged. "Since Saturday." Keanu nodded slowly. He didn't ask more, didn't push. He just sat down, right there on the curb beside Eli, back against the wall. Quiet. "You hungry?" Eli nodded quickly. Keanu stood up and motioned across the street. "There's a diner over there. You come with me?" Eli hesitated. He had rules. People had rules. But something in the man's voice felt different. "You promise it's not weird?" Keanu chuckled. "You can sit across the table from me the whole time. Just food, I swear." Eli stood slowly, clutching his backpack like a lifeline, and together they walked inside the diner. The hostess looked at Keanu's worn jacket and the boy's dirty shoes with surprise. "2, please," Keanu said politely. She hesitated, then recognized him. "Oh, of course. Yes, right this way." They sat by the window. Eli stared at the menu like it was magic. He hadn't touched paper this clean in days. Keanu smiled and asked, "What'll it be?" "Sky's the limit," Eli grinned. "Grilled cheese, fries, chocolate milkshake." "Classic," Keanu said. "Excellent choice." They didn't talk much at first. Keanu didn't ask what happened, didn't ask about parents, didn't ask why he was alone. He just asked, "What do you like to draw?" "Spaceships," Eli said. "Big ones?" Eli grinned. "With laser cannons." Keanu nodded seriously. "Naturally." The grilled cheese came hot, golden, and slightly crispy on the edges. The fries were stacked high, and the milkshake was taller than Eli's forearm. He stared at the tray like it was a spaceship of its own. "Go for it," Keanu said, smiling. Eli didn't need to be told twice. He dug in, hands shaky at first, then faster. Not from greed, but from days of waiting. Keanu didn't interrupt. He just watched, calmly, quietly, letting the boy have that moment, that dignity. When Eli finally slowed down, wiping chocolate milkshake from his lip with the back of his hand, he leaned back in the booth, eyes heavy but heart full. Keanu took a sip of coffee and asked, "So, these spaceships, do they go fast?" Eli nodded. "Lightspeed. Any aliens?" "Sometimes. Mostly bad guys, but some just want to go home." Keanu nodded thoughtfully. "I know that feeling." Eli tilted his head. "What, going home?" Keanu's voice dropped a little. "Yeah." And not always knowing where that is. For a moment, Eli's expression changed. Like he saw something in Keanu's face that was rarely shown to the public. Something soft, something lost. "Did you ever live on the street?" Eli asked. Keanu stirred his coffee. "Not for long. But I've known people who did. Good people. People who deserved better. Some made it out. Some didn't." "What happened to the ones who didn't?" Keanu looked out the window for a second. "I remember one man," he said. "He was kind. Gave me a sandwich once when I didn't have anything. I asked him why. He said, 'Because someone once did that for me when I was your size.'" Eli blinked. "That's kind of like what you're doing now." Keanu smiled faintly. "Maybe it's my turn." In the booth behind them, a woman in her 40s had been quietly watching. She recognized Keanu the moment he walked in, but something about the scene unfolding stopped her from interrupting. She watched him treat the boy not like a charity case, not like a fan, not like a project, but like a person. She discreetly took a photo. No flash, no noise, just one photo. Keanu and Eli sitting together in a red vinyl booth, a milkshake between them and a feeling too real to fake. She posted it later with a simple caption. "Keanu Reeves just bought dinner for a homeless kid. No cameras, no press, just kindness." Within 2 hours, it had over 50,000 shares. Back in the diner, Eli had gone quiet again. He stared down at the last bite of sandwich like he didn't want to finish it. Like finishing it meant the moment might end. "Do you have to go soon?" he asked. Keanu nodded gently. "I do. But before I go," he reached into his backpack and pulled out a small, folded sketchbook. The cover was worn. The pages curled slightly at the edges. He slid it across the table. "Draw me your spaceship." Eli blinked. "Really? Really? I want to see it. And when you finish, it's yours to keep." Eli picked up the pencil like it was made of gold. He started to draw. Meanwhile, across the city, someone from Keanu's management team was staring at their phone, reading the viral post, now spreading like wildfire. "He didn't call us. Didn't alert the press. He just did it again, didn't he?" Someone else replied, "He always does. That's why people believe in him." At the diner, Keanu stood, gently placing a 20 on the table to cover the meal and a generous tip. Eli looked up from the sketch. "Will I see you again?" Keanu smiled. "I hope so." Then he placed a hand gently on Eli's shoulder and said the words that the boy would remember for the rest of his life. "You're not invisible. Not to me. Not anymore." Keanu stepped out of the diner quietly. No selfies. No applause. Just the soft crunch of gravel under his boots as he walked back to his motorcycle, parked under a flickering streetlight. He looked back once, through the glass window of the cafe, and saw Eli hunched over the sketchbook, drawing with intense focus. Not just surviving, creating. Keanu smiled, then slipped on his helmet and rode off into the night. Inside, Eli didn't even notice he was gone. He was too busy drawing. The spaceship he'd imagined for weeks was now taking shape. Long, sleek, with fire at the tail and wings that folded like a bird's. There were stars around it, and on the hull he wrote, "Hope Voyager." For the first time in days, he felt warm, not from food, from being seen. A few tables over, the woman who had taken the photo earlier watched Eli with a thoughtful expression. Her name was Lauren. She was a school counselor, widowed, no children. But something in Eli, the way he clutched that pencil like it was oxygen, reminded her of the son she never had. When Eli got up to leave, sketchbook in hand, she stood too. "Excuse me," she said gently. "Hey, are you okay?" Eli froze, clutching the book tighter. "I'm not gonna hurt you," she added quickly. "I just saw what happened. I think that was the kindest thing I've seen all year." He glanced at her, cautious. "Do you have a place to go tonight?" she asked. Silence. Then softly, "No." Lauren hesitated. She didn't want to scare him off, but she also couldn't walk away. "I work at a youth shelter just a few blocks from here," she said. "We've got clean beds, hot food. You'd have your own room. No pressure. You're safe to say no." Eli looked up at her for a long moment. Then he asked, "Do they let you draw there?" Lauren smiled, her throat tight. "Yeah, we've got art supplies. Lots of them." Eli looked down at the sketchbook, then nodded. "Okay." That night, in a warm, clean room painted sky blue, Eli curled up in a twin bed with clean sheets and a donated pillow. He placed the sketchbook on the nightstand like it was a treasure chest, and just before drifting off, he whispered, "Thank you, Keanu." The next morning, Lauren walked into her office and found a staff member waving a phone. "You need to see this." On the screen was a news report. Keanu Reeves spotted quietly buying dinner for a homeless child, and inspiring a movement overnight. It wasn't just viral now. It was everywhere. TV, Twitter, news feeds. People weren't just talking about Keanu. They were talking about homeless kids, about youth shelters, about how many Elis were out there, silent, invisible, waiting. Donations to local shelters spiked. Art supply drives were organized, and Rosie's Cafe? It had a line out the door. At the same time, on the other side of LA, Keanu sat in a trailer on a quiet film set, holding a printout of the same news article. He smiled, but not because his name was in it. He smiled because Eli's was not, because this story wasn't about fame. It was about what happens when someone feels worthy again. Meanwhile, back at the shelter, Eli sat at a table in the common room. In front of him was a blank sheet of paper, a new set of markers, and a little sign on the wall that read, "You're not invisible here." He glanced up and saw Lauren talking to someone new. A man in his late 40s, gentle eyes, weathered hands, quiet voice. His name was Peter. He was a foster parent. Lauren introduced them. Peter offered a small smile. "I heard about your spaceship," he said. "Sounds like something worth building." Eli blinked. "You like spaceships?" Peter nodded. "I used to draw them too, when I was your age." A pause. Then Peter added, "Would you want to come stay with me for a while, just to try? No rules, just a home and pencils." The sun was just beginning to set when Peter pulled his beat-up red truck into the gravel driveway of a small yellow house with white shutters and a crooked mailbox that read, "Welcome, whoever you are." In the passenger seat, Eli clutched his backpack with one hand and his sketchbook with the other. His eyes darted between the house, the porch swing, and the flower pots by the steps. Unsure if it was real or just another temporary stop, Peter stepped out of the truck slowly, without pressure. "No rush," he said gently. "We don't start anything here with rules, only questions." Eli looked at him. "Like what kind of questions?" Peter smiled. "Like, how many pancakes do you want for dinner?" Eli blinked. "I can have pancakes. You can have 7 pancakes. Or 1, or none. Your choice." And somehow, that was the most freeing sentence Eli had ever heard. Inside the house, Peter showed him the bedroom at the end of the hall. It wasn't fancy, but it had a small desk, a lamp with a dinosaur base, and walls that weren't peeling. On the bed was a folded blue quilt and a pillow that smelled like sunshine. And waiting on the desk was a brand new pack of markers. "You bought these?" Eli asked. "Nope," Peter replied. "They just showed up this morning. Box was on the porch. No name, just a note inside." He handed it to Eli. It read, "Wire." To Eli. "I heard the Hope Voyager might need new tools. Keep drawing. I'm rooting for you. K." Eli held the note like it might disappear. Peter didn't press. He just placed a plate of pancakes on the desk and left the room with a gentle, "Call me if you need anything, son." Eli froze. "What did you just call me?" Peter smiled. "Nothing you have to believe yet. Just something you're welcome to." That night, for the first time in a long time, Eli slept without shoes on. The next morning, he woke to birds, the smell of maple syrup, and the sound of a lawnmower somewhere far away. He padded to the kitchen barefoot, sketchbook under his arm. "You hungry?" Peter asked. Eli shrugged. "A little," Peter nodded. "Good. Hungry means you're alive." They sat at the table together, flipping through Eli's spaceship drawings. Eli pointed at one design and asked, "If this was real, where would it go first?" Peter answered without thinking, "To wherever the lonely kids are, so they know someone's coming." Across the city, Keanu sat in a quiet cafe with a tea he hadn't touched. On his phone was a photo. Eli, standing in front of a house, holding his sketchbook proudly, next to a man with kind eyes and work-worn hands. Keanu smiled. He didn't need to be tagged, didn't need to be credited. He just needed to know the ship had launched, and the boy was no longer invisible. At that same moment, Lauren, the counselor who brought Eli to the shelter, stepped into a local bookstore. She approached the clerk, holding a copy of The Alchemist. "Do you have any copies signed by Keanu Reeves?" she asked, half joking. The clerk raised an eyebrow. "Actually," he reached under the counter and pulled out a copy. On the inside cover, in neat handwriting, "To the ones who catch the falling, you are the miracle." Lauren didn't say a word. She just bought the book, held it to her chest, and smiled. 3 months later, a small community center in downtown Los Angeles buzzed with quiet excitement. Inside, folding chairs lined the walls, and paper stars hung from the ceiling. A banner stretched across the front read, "Hope Voyager, Art by Eli, in honor of kids who dream in the dark." Tables around the room held drawings, dozens of them. Some were of galaxies, others of cities built in space. All signed with a simple name in the corner, Eli R. Kids from shelters across the city were invited. Teachers, caseworkers, foster families, and one very nervous boy in a blue hoodie stood near the back, tugging at his sleeves. "You okay?" Peter asked, his hand gently on Eli's shoulder. Eli nodded. I've never had people look at my drawings before." Peter smiled. "They're not just looking at your drawings, Eli. They're seeing your heart." At that moment, the door opened. Eli glanced over and froze. Standing just inside the entryway, wearing a quiet gray blazer and holding nothing but a cup of tea, was Keanu Reeves. No entourage, no camera crew, just him. He caught Eli's eye and smiled. Eli's legs moved before his brain caught up. He walked, ran, across the room and threw his arms around Keanu's waist, holding tightly. Keanu gently returned the hug, his voice quiet. "Hey, Captain Voyager." Eli pulled back, grinning. "You came." "Of course I did. Couldn't miss the launch." Eli looked around nervously. "There's a drawing I saved. I didn't hang it. I wanted to give it to you." He led Keanu to a backpack under the table and pulled out a folded sheet. On it was the spaceship from the diner. But this version had two figures inside, one big, one small, both smiling. Above them, in shaky marker, "Thank you for seeing me." Keanu stared at it for a long moment, then said softly, "I should be the one thanking you." As the crowd settled into their seats, Lauren took the mic and welcomed everyone. "Tonight's not about a celebrity," she said, glancing at Keanu. "It's not even about tragedy. It's about triumph. Quiet, determined triumph. Drawn in pencil by a boy who refused to disappear." Applause filled the room. Eli flushed red and buried his face in Peter's side. Keanu leaned in and whispered, "Want me to stand next to you?" Eli nodded without hesitation. They walked up together. Not actor and fan, not rich and poor, just two humans who crossed paths at the right time. Later that night, after the lights dimmed and the guests trickled out, Eli sat alone on the front steps, staring up at the sky. Keanu walked over, two hot chocolates in hand. "Still dreaming of space?" he asked. Eli nodded. "But now, I think I want to help people build ships. Maybe I'll become an engineer, or an artist for kids like me." Keanu smiled. "You don't have to choose, you know. You can be both." They sipped quietly. Then Eli asked, "You gonna disappear again?" Keanu tilted his head. "Not if you keep drawing. I'll always be somewhere in the stars." As Keanu stood to leave, he placed one last envelope in Eli's lap. Eli looked confused. "Another check?" Keanu chuckled. "Nah, that part's done. Open it." Inside was a ticket. One seat, one name, one destination. The logo read, "Junior Guest, NASA Kennedy Space Center Tour." Eli's jaw dropped. "You're sending me to NASA?" Keanu winked. "Someone's got to show the scientists how to design the next Hope Voyager." Final narration, voice over style. In a world where most people walk past the invisible, one man knelt down and asked a child his name. That question didn't cost money. It didn't require fame, but it lit a fire so bright that the world couldn't look away. And now, that boy draws stars not to escape, but to bring others home.